I should. Hey, everybody. Oh, it's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine alongside Jeff Hawkins on the Fight Game Media Network. Want to thank you all for supporting the Patreon if you're listening on audio, and for joining us here on YouTube if you're watching live. And Jeff, you had a week off.
Yes.
You're refreshed. You looking
tanned,
good.
rested, and ready.
Yeah, from Phoenix you went to, right?
Scottsdale, yes.
Scottsdale,
Thank you to Brian for filling in.
Yeah, that was fun.
No,
Thanksgiving.
It's great to listen to somebody else work the territory. That's what occasionally you gotta cycle people in and stuff like that.
It was good because like there was at least one segment that we were totally apart on, so that was interesting. And then for the most part, like I wasn't sure how it was going to go because I'm in one Facebook group with him, and some of the stuff he posts, like sometimes I don't agree with him. I appreciate Brian, and we have good conversations. And
you guys mostly agreed on Full Gear, though, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, Full Gear was I know we talked about it a little bit. I think you agreed, that it was I think the way I summed it up was it wasn't as good as the sum of its parts. Like the matches were good, but the layout, the booking was, led something to be desired. And that was actually like this show in general. I got a thought of before we even get into the recap, but you had a point you wanted to make at the start. You said,
well, I have a question. I have a question because it's something I'm pondering and it's for my other territory, but I have a few days to ponder it. So I wanted to, test it out here.
Sure.
A lot of the complaints about AEW right now, and comment in the discourse, they go, man, I wish AEW was like it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I want to know what was different 2 or 3 years ago. And one of my theories is that they didn't have all the toys that they were going to get at the time. A lot of 2 or 3 years ago wish casting was, man, if we could get Adam Cole and some of those NXT guys in here, and if we could get a deal with New Japan, then this company would be running on all cylinders, et cetera, et cetera. I don't find a lot of stylistic choice difference per se, although there are some segments that are different. We'll probably get into this when we talk about QT Marshall's resignation.
Yeah.
But there's not a huge 180 between the AEW 2 years ago and the AEW today to me. Is there?
Well, I think there is. And okay. I'm glad you asked that question because it's funny. I was about 20 minutes into this show and I was thinking, this feels like the old AEW.
Wow.
And and the reason was that like it was just more focused just on the matches. And not to say they weren't telling stories in the matches, but and if you go back to 2 years ago, and you brought up a great point, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody make that point, was, they're talking about at the time, like everyone liked what they were seeing, but yet you still wanted all these outside people. And what happens when you bring in outside people is things change. Like, different skill sets, different egos, different goals that everyone has. Yeah, you bloat your roster, and then all of a sudden, so at the beginning, you had this group of people that were brought in for the most part, either with a few exceptions, very few exceptions, like 4 or 5 people that WWE wanted, and about 45 that WWE had no interest in, and these people were invested in creating a new company and becoming stars, and they did to some level. And then all of a sudden, what happened was you bring in the guys from outside and you replace these guys that help build your company.
Yeah, that, and you also had people with, you could tell the various segments were property of somebody. Like you could tell this was going to be a Cody segment. This is going to be a Kenny segment. The Bucks were kind of, or, whoever's booking the tag teams, this is kind of their segment, and was very fragmented. But at the same time, you could see how the sausage was sort of made in a TV format. If you imagine it on a sheet or something like this, it wasn't just, okay, we have 3 good matches. We have a couple of promo segments. It wasn't as coherent, but it also wasn't as similar in styles from
Yeah, and well, and then
segment
the
to
other
segment.
thing is that it was so different from what you were seeing from the other company, and the other company pretty much
And
sucked.
that's the other thing too. I
Yeah,
think that 2 or 3 years ago, NXT was horrible 2 or 3 years ago. We can all admit it's not great now, but it's at least competent at times. And then the main roster was garbage, and it's improved some of its presentation. So yeah, I think there's a lot of outside forces there. The wrestling business is different
yeah.
than 2 or 3 years ago. And I think there are some people who want it back like it was when, oh, AEW won the demo for the week. Kind
Yeah.
of.
Matt brings up a point here, kind of similar to what we're saying. AEW historically has been great matches and great promos with mediocre start-stop booking in between. Difference is that they've leaned far more into the WWE dinner theater, melodrama, and booking.
I'd kind of push back a little bit against the great promos.
Yeah, well, and that's a
Like,
matter of opinion,
yeah.
and then
I
he
agree that
also
they've pushed a little bit in the melodrama, and they've also pushed into the New Japan. Hey, we're just going to have these great matches, and we'll have a tournament type of a thing. It's one of
yeah,
those things where I don't know. This tournament to me, it's not that I don't like it. It's that it's a little dangerous from the perspective of, okay, you only have 6 wrestlers, and we're going to have 3 matches from them each week, so that's going to take up most of your time. And so, what do you do with the rest of your time to help the other 80 to 90 people you have on your roster right now?
well,
Whereas you
yeah,
have time for a women's match because you have to throw that in there almost through obligation.
exactly one.
Yeah, exactly one. And you get a couple of segments here and maybe one other match. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and that thing, and I was watching, and I'm looking at this, and certain guys are coming out, I'm like, wait a second, we're gonna see this guy, if you like Jay Lethal or you don't like Jay Lethal, you're gonna see him wrestling every week.
Every week for 6
You're gonna
weeks
see Mark
or
Briscoe,
5
which
weeks.
we
Yeah.
all like Mark Briscoe.
Yes.
You're gonna see Roosh. You might get sick of them after a while.
Yeah.
And then where's everyone else, like you say? So, maybe we're gonna get a lot of multi-person matches. I mean, we do have Rampage, but then again, are you gonna watch Rampage? They're clearly giving time, in this transferring heat point that he brought up, and originally brought up by Britt Baker of all people.
Yeah, I saw that.
7 minutes of Christian Cage live promo time, or sorry, MJF 7 minutes, Christian 10, and so that's 17 minutes out of 84 that you have in a 2-hour show.
Mhm.
And then you want to add another probably 40 minutes to your tournament, so that right there is 57 minutes. So you got 27 minutes left for the other 60 people on your roster.
I critiqued, and now I'm going to praise real quick because I think
Okay.
it helped the push for Collision a little bit. I had said that the best things about this tournament right now are the post-match promos that they're doing
Yes.
backstage, and they're only putting on social media. And they finally put one on television. It was Eddie
That Eddie
Kingston, which was
promo?
a smart idea. I think that was a
Yeah,
very
we'll
good
we'll
idea.
get into that. I will also say, just as a general thing about this show, this is the first time that I got the sense that they have an idea of what this tournament should be. And putting Bryan Danielson on commentary
Danielson helped a
was
lot.
genius.
Helped a lot.
Yes, he put over the tournament, he put over the grueling aspects of it, he put over the points, he put over the Triple Crown. He explained why this tournament's important from the perspective of someone that's in it. Which we also saw with Eddie Kingston. And the common complaint is, well, why would anyone care about this tournament? It's just the ROH title and New Japan's 10th title and some new belt that Tony dreamed up. Well, they're telling you now why it's important.
Yes.
And they have the guy that everyone loves, and everyone believes every word that the guy says. Bryan Danielson is universally loved, and he was the one telling you, hey, this tournament's important.
Well, he's
And
universally loved except for Nigel McGuinness, but yes.
well, yeah. So I thought that was brilliant. And then just the structure and everything, even down to, okay, if you looked at these matches on paper and you said, well, which is the most marquee match? You would probably put the Jon Moxley match in the main event, possibly even the Julia Hart match because it was a title match. They put the match in the main event with 2 guys that each had 3 points. That tells you that is the important match, and you're building. One of these guys is going to have 6, or maybe they're both going to have 4. But that's how New Japan does it too. So sometimes you
Yeah.
don't have the biggest match in the main event, but it is the most important match for the tournament because next week I'd imagine, if it's Mox and Swerve, they're going to be the main event because they both got 6 points.
Or even
So it's
Mox and Roosh, if you think about it.
yeah, Mox and Roosh say, one's got 6, one's got 3. So you got Roosh trying to get to 6, and you got Mox trying to he can eliminate Roosh, if he gets a win.
Yeah.
These are the stories you can tell. So I really like that. And so he might be now. Matt is saying Swerve is going to be a top 5 guy in the company in 2024, if not higher. I mean, that's a pretty safe bet. Tonight was big for him. And you brought up, and we'll get into the show in a bit, but you brought up QT. QT resigned. He'll work till the end of the year, but I bet you we don't see him again. If we do, it'll be jobbing or something. But and some people think he's WWE bound. Some people think AAA. I'm not sure. If he goes to WWE, I can't see him on screen. Maybe I could, I'd put him maybe with Chelsea. I think that would be fun, but
I think he could be a trainer at NXT, but that'd be very interesting given that they've already buried the training of Jade Cargill.
Okay, I disagree. I don't think they did.
Okay.
I think what he was doing was he was saying that he wasn't talking about her in ring. He was talking about the fact that she needs to be ready to be in the main event.
Know where the hard cam is, know where,
not just that, but just
the pacing of a WWE match and things
everything.
like that.
So it's not so much that, they could put her out there now. You think she's worse than Nia Jax? I mean, come on.
No.
Yeah.
I found, though, I mean, it was very interesting. QT came out publicly and talked about the direction of the company.
Yes.
Because, I mean,
well, did he come out or did he leak it?
He put it in there on purpose.
Oh, he put it in. Okay.
I mean, he put it in there in his resignation. It's like, that they want to go a different way.
Oh, right. And then it was clarified that it's supposedly the direction of New Japan, which
is it? I mean, I think it's a combination of New Japan and the aforementioned melodrama. Because I think a lot of this was a power play. I think a lot of this is Jimmy Jacobs is now the right hand man of Tony Khan,
which is kind of where QT was like through the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he was, and apparently a lot of people in AEW were like sad to see him go.
Yeah. And I think he's a solid guy. It was interesting because I wasn't an ROH historian like yourself, so I had never heard of him when they came up with the, when I was watching the behind the scenes of who's behind the scenes at AEW, it's like there's this guy QT Marshall who he was an independent guy for years. He's helped us so much on production and all these other things. I was like, okay, he has some talents. It sounds like, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like all my friends have left here right now, and I'm still the last guy here, kind of a thing. Also, but I mean, I also think that rotation is good for those types of positions.
Mm-hmm.
Get somebody with a fresh perspective. But
clearly, he hasn't been doing that job for a while.
Yeah, but he was vice president of talent relations still, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think he and Tony were.
Well, he did a great job with the Punk situation then.
Well, no. I don't know. I don't know if that was him. I don't know if
I'm joking, obviously.
You're putting people on the disciplinary committee or workers, you have a whole bunch of things like that. But it's just interesting to me. I don't know if there's a play. I mean, he was a solid mid-card glue guy. And I think you don't have a lot of those on your roster. You have a lot of young guys and you have a lot of veterans who know what they're doing.
Yeah, there's no need for that role in WWE, really.
Right. And if you're not going to be a star in WWE, they really don't have any use for you because they have plenty of those veteran glue guys in there.
Yeah.
They have the R-Trues and I put Tozawa in that category.
Yeah, I mean, he could,
in that category.
He could definitely work for NXT though, and help them with their production, with their booking, and all
work
that.
With Brash, whatever.
I mean, his background really is very similar to Adam Pearce.
And he still runs the Nightmare Factory with Cody and Dustin. So
and that's another one. Like I could see Dustin wanting to go back when his contract runs out.
So that begs the question: then, who is the in-house training crew for AEW now? Because if it was the Midnight, or not the Midnight Factory, the Nightmare Factory was kind of the go-to for Jade, and I think Anna Jay and a few others. I mean,
I mean, the only one I've heard is I know Danielson works with some people.
okay.
But I mean, that was Jade that we mostly heard about, and she's gone. So, and plus he's been hurt. So
Red
I
Velvet
don't know.
was out of there too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that
I
were
mean,
out
they
of there.
could still use them for that,
Yeah, is Dustin still on the roster? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and not only, I mean, QT could still help train, like if maybe that's gonna be his main gig. Who knows? All right, we'll get into the show.
Do we want to go to the show, or do we want to just get rid of everything that's not the show and do MJF right now?
What was the other one? Oh, MJF
torn
injury.
labrum. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that when we get to him.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get into it then.
Let's get into the show. Danielson, as I mentioned, came out for the to be the guest commentator right at the start. So it's your standard Dynamite opening, just with the credits and everything, no hard open or whatever. They did an all-in ticket sales plug. We didn't talk about that. They've sold almost 30,000 tickets. Tickets officially go on sale Friday, but they had a pre-sale, and I think that's really good.
Have you picked up yours? Are you going?
No.
Okay.
No, I'd love to, but wife says no. 1 year I'll go, but it won't be next year. Danielson's still wearing an eye patch. He's wrestling in this tournament on Saturday, but he looks like a pirate. And they just hammered the rules home, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But they made it like it was like this was the first time, even though it's probably the third time now that they've gone over these rules. And I think it's important because you do have new viewers, and you also want to make sure everyone understands the points and the blocks and the leagues, and everything. And I think that's a really good thing. And they showed the standings, which I love. Like when I watch a hockey game, they show the standings at the beginning of the game. Here's where the Winnipeg Jets are, in the season, and this is why this game is important. And that's what they did. And then we had Jon Moxley and Jay Lethal, and Jon Moxley is trying to get to 6 points, and Jay Lethal is trying to get on the board. And Danielson was out there, and he talked about how his generation grew up watching the All Japan and the Triple Crown, and now AEW's got his own Triple Crown, and we all want it. The crowd was, they were really kind of like cheering for both guys. Let's go Moxley, let's go Lethal. Danielson,
I think they were cheering for Lethal, though, a little bit out of pity that everybody was cheering for Moxley. It's kind of like one.
But he is big in that area. I do remember.
Were they in Minneapolis? Okay, yeah. I thought commentary, especially Danielson, did a great job of putting over Lethal as a threat in this tournament, as opposed to just the dope who's with Triple J.
And he really took like probably 80% of this match. Danielson at the beginning was criticizing him for, kind of fooling around because he did the Fargo strut real early. But Lethal was doing all his signature stuff, and he was working over the leg. And then Moxley did a dive to the outside, and he landed funny. And they showed like a couple angles of it. And, I don't know if he really hurt himself or he just did a great job selling. But the rest of the match, it was Lethal working over the leg and Moxley just, kind of struggling to hang on and then having these bursts of offense. And I noticed at one point that Aubrey had her hair down. Did you notice that? Yes. It was really distracting, but because she's got really long hair and she's always got it tied up in a bun. So I just thought, it doesn't matter, but it was just interesting.
What an odd thing to get fixated on, but please continue.
Yeah, well, I couldn't stop looking at it. So yeah, Lethal's continuing to roll over the leg. He tossed Moxley into the post, or no, Moxley tossed Lethal into the post to try to get some, just have some time to recover, and he's banging out the knee. And then Lethal came back and he put on the figure 4. Danielson's basically cheerleading. Mox makes the ropes. Lethal goes for a lethal injection, but Mox ducked out of it. And then he came back, hit a paradigm shift, lariat, a pile driver, and then he put on the rear naked choke, and Lethal tapped. And it was a really, really good match to open the show.
And I really like the psychology of the end of Lethal punching the knee, trying to get out, and then Moxley trapping the arm. I thought that was a nice little touch too.
Yeah, it was a really good match. And again, it's like, I think Lethal's probably going to end up, like not even getting a win in this tournament, but I
think he'll get a draw. I think he and like Briscoe, because remember they'll play up the friendship angle or something, so they'll take each other to the limit. Or
and at some point they may be, they'll be going in there probably both with 0 points. So
yeah,
they could do that. I think we're going to see some draws in the other block. Just if I'm booking, I would have Garcia be the spoiler and maybe not necessarily win, but like maybe take Danielson to a draw, and then Danielson ends up being knocked out because he didn't get a win.
I can see that too. Yeah.
And then it also means you don't have to have Danielson having 6 matches before that big Tokyo Dome match.
True.
So the standings after this match, Moxley's got 6 points. Jay White and Swerve have 3. And Roosh, Briscoe, and Jay Lethal all have 0. And I'm going to mention these because they mentioned them. And I think it's important. And I really, really enjoyed this. And
But I'll ask
everything.
I'll ask this question, though, given that
Sure.
you brought it up. If Danielson doesn't win this, or he doesn't even go to the finals, does that diminish the interest in it?
Depends who wins. If Swerve wins and ends up becoming, the AEW World Champion in 6 months or less, then maybe it's important. Maybe they use that as a springboard.
Because I think the 2 guys that could or should win this are probably him or Moxley if it's not Danielson.
And you could also maybe say Kingston because he's already the champion and him winning those belts.
I would not give the Triple Crown to Kingston.
I know some people think the whole reason this tournament exists is so that Kingston can get a Triple Crown, but
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I mean, it's the thing that really bugs me about that is Kingston is somewhat of a historian of All Japan, and for him to call this the Triple Crown is almost sacrilegious. But that's
the only way I could see Kingston winning this if he takes this Triple Crown to Japan for their Triple Crown and then just gets beat.
Oh, that'd be funny. Yeah, just like lose to like Dave Finlay or something. They cut to the back for that promo that you talked about, Kingston after his collision match, and he's there in the corner of a hallway and he's got his tights down. He just looks depressed, and he says, "I knew this tourney would be tough. I came in too arrogant and cocky, like I deserve to win. No one deserves anything. Everything's earned. And now I got Brian next, and I'm behind the 8 ball." And then he just stops and he says, "I'm not doing this. I'm not going back. I'm humble in victory. I'm humble in defeat. I got to heal up, get in that Epsom salt bath, all that good stuff, and I'm going to be ready for Brian." And I didn't do this promo justice. This was so good.
No, the Mark Briscoe one was fantastic too. If you guys haven't seen the first one from last week, and also the Swerve one from last week, we're both really good. Don't ever do that again. Okay, continue.
That was good.
It was good. It just blew up my eardrum.
Oh, sorry. My bad. What were you going to say?
No, but all these have been pretty good and solid, and they have a touch of realness to them, and that's what.
Yeah.
That's what I think people are craving for. I think people are craving for real heat and real drama as opposed to melodrama. I
think when you talk about are people going to remember and is it going to be important, that's what people are going to remember.
Yes, because that's always what people remember. People always remember those, and people, unless you're a WWE fan, that's the thing. If you're a WWE fan, you remember the funny moments. You remember Regal coming out in drag and crap like that. If you're a wrestling
Ric
fan,
Flair's promo after the Royal Rumble,
yes.
With a
you remember that with a tear in my but that was a copy of another promo he had done previously in Mid-Atlantic.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, the Dusty promos, all those other, all the great promos that you think about prior to consolidation of one entity running this entire show have all been dramatic, angry, passionate promos. So that's why I love Eddie Kingston too. I mean, Eddie Kingston
he's real.
Yeah, he's real. I'm not the biggest fan of him in ring, but outside of the ring, I could listen to him all day. And everything.
That match he had with Brody was awesome.
Yeah, but everything from his debut. I mean, when he debuted and cut down both Cody and Arn, I was like, I'm here for this. Give me this. So yeah.
You reminded me of one point I wanted to make. Before. Oh crap! I think I forgot it already. Damn it!
Was it about WWE promos?
No, no, I lost it. It was something about this tournament, and it was something that occurred to me that hit me, and then I kind of lost it.
It'll come back. We'll think about it later.
I hope so. Anyways, they come back, and the crowd actually, I guess they must have saw this promo because they're chanting Eddie, and Daniel Bryan's on camera, and he says Eddie had a lot of courage to put up his belts, but he says, "I'm coming in on fire to win." He said, "I'm not going to be humble. And I'm not going to be humble in victory or humble in defeat. I'm coming in to win, and I'm going to be the first AEW Triple Crown champion." And he's screaming this promo.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
I
really
me
like
chills, to be honest.
Oh, I remember
Danielson. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't want.
I remember my point. Sorry. When I heard it said about this tournament that one of the good things about it is we're going to get a bunch of good matches every week on Dynamite because of the talent of the guys involved. And my counter to that was, well, that's Dynamite every week. We get good matches every week. I want a reason to care about these good matches.
Yes.
And this tournament is giving me a reason to care about these good matches. So to them, because they're making me care. And you know what? I wouldn't have cared about a Mark Briscoe Roosh match otherwise. I care about it here because of the tournament. I 100% agree with this, Matt. They should have built up this tournament sooner, announcing all the dates and contestants beforehand, but the execution has been good so far. When we last spoke, which was 2 weeks ago, we knew exactly one person that was going to be in this tournament.
Yes.
And it was Bryan Danielson, and he hasn't even wrestled in it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure he is.
I have not yet gotten to the point of caring, but it's been good.
Well, tonight made me care. So me, anyways, maybe not everybody, but me, and I'm all I care about.
I see nothing wrong with that. Please continue.
Yeah. They announced the matches for Collision. Great. The Blue League, Claudio against Eddie Kingston, which I mean, it's super grudge match. Danny Garcia and Andrade El Idolo, and that's a rematch from a couple weeks ago. And Claudio and Brody King. And wait a minute, it's Daniel Bryan and Eddie Kingston. My bad. I wrote down Claudio.
Yes.
Yeah, Bryan Danielson. Did I say Daniel Bryan?
Yes, it did.
Bryan Danielson and Eddie Kingston, Daniel Garcia and Andrade, and Claudio and Brody. So I assume that's gonna be the main event because it's for first place in the Blue League. So that is on Saturday on Collision. What did you hear that?
Yeah, my phone went off. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's okay. We go backstage to Tony Schiavone. I love this segment too. This was a throwback. I'll tell you that. Sting's final match is coming up. I can't believe we didn't get a tweet hyping this. They should have hyped this announcement, I think. But Sting's final match is coming up. They announced the date, Revolution, Sunday, March the 3rd. And Tony Schiavone says, well, what venue is it going to be? And everyone's been asking. He says, well, what better place to have this than Greensboro North Coliseum, in the Greensboro Coliseum, which is a location of the 1988 Clash match that put Sting on the map. And so, of course, Sting and Flair are there. Tony brought up that Sting has the longest winning streak in AEW. He put over the match in 1988. He thanks Rick. He thanks Tony for dressing it up. And he said it's a fitting place to end his career 40 years ago. Oh, yeah. And then Tony says to Rick, he says, well, 40 years ago, that was 35 years ago. 40 years ago, we had another match. And I think he was going to bring up Starrcade. And then Rick took over. And he says, the words cannot be spoken to the volume and the emphasis of what's about to take place. I did not make Sting. He made himself. 45 minutes commercial free with me. Unthinkable. He walked back to the locker room and 25 wrestlers said, you're the man, Sting. We didn't rehearse it. Just two men. I'm 74 years old. I'm working for Tony Khan. I'm with my friend Tony Schiavone, and I'm going to Greensboro for the biggest fight of my life, the biggest moment of my life. This will be one for the ages. Highway 85 will be lined up from Richmond to Charlotte. Sting and AEW are coming to Greensboro. And then Sting says, it's the 80s all over again, Rick. It's showtime. This was wonderful. I don't like Ric Flair and AEW, but I love this.
Been to the Greensboro Coliseum a few times because Flair also brought up ACC tournaments. Doesn't matter what's been in there. This will be bigger. I was like, yeah, maybe not quite there, brother. College basketball very important to the triangle, but I liked this. I also you skipped the best part of the Flair thing.
I was trying, dude.
No. But when he yelled, "Jesus," you can just see Sting like, "What?"
Yeah.
I also love that Flair has now decided he doesn't want to get fact checked by Dave, so he says 45 minutes instead of a 1 hour draw.
They mentioned 45 minutes like 8 times in this promo.
Yeah, just so Dave won't hammer him on Wednesday. It'll be great.
Now Dave's probably going to, well, you know, they actually did do a commercial.
It was actually like something. 53 minutes or something like that. It wasn't really 45.
I timed it. It was 44:36.
Yeah, I liked this. I still long for Flair not dressing like a couch from 1973. I wish
Well,
he was like wearing like just a classy black suit or
and he
something.
had dark
Be
sunglasses on
uh,
too, eh?
be Nick Bockwinkel. Don't be a weird guy out of a pimp convention.
Harley Race, like he
Yeah.
could, yeah, he could
Yeah,
be.
there's nothing wrong with that. The clown suit I don't get, but everything else I liked.
He can still cut a promo. He really
Yeah,
can.
he was fighting it a bit.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was like trying to keep his teeth in. Um, at
He
times
didn't
'cause he
screw
was
up, so that was good.
no, he didn't screw up. He got a little lost at first, and then he
Yeah.
got on track, but it was good.
I thought last week's tournament matches, I said the first two matches were okay. They were good, but not anything special. And then the main event was great. Next, and the first match here tonight was really good, better than those other two matches last week. Not as good as the main event. This Mark Briscoe Roosh match, I thought was great. It was not quite as good as the main event last week, but almost as good.
Oh,
And
I liked this better than the main event last week.
oh, did you? Okay, and
Yeah.
fair enough. Like, I mean, these guys, they went at it, and Danielson right away says, like, there's no way these guys are going 20 minutes at this pace, which I thought was great. And he says they're both desperate to get on the board. They were just chopping the hell out of each other. They had about 6 different exchanges where they're just chopping.
This coming out of a Flair promo and then
Yes.
coming into basically Flair Steamboat from Chi-Town Rumble.
Yeah.
And just walking and smacking the hell out of each other. Look, there are two wrestlers for me now that are must see in AEW. One of them is Joe, and the other one is Roosh. Because Roosh is there to hoss fight. Yeah. And I am here for that. I am here for hoss fighting Roosh.
And he's selling?
Sometimes, which is even better.
He did tonight?
Yeah, he did. He sold the leg pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, like there was something that happened during the break. I don't know what it was, but they were, after the break, he was selling his leg. So
I was watching during the break because unfortunately now that's where heels get their heat.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. But no, he was limping a bit beforehand. I mean, it was a sell on that. But and of course, Mark's crazy, and you gotta love him. And yeah, these two, this is what I want out of these tournaments. I want 6 guys who can do this to each other.
Yeah,
and if you can't get a guy to do that, bring in Emi Sakura because she'll do it to you too.
We'll get to Emi.
I mean, after watching what she did to Tony Storm the night before,
Full Gear, know what? Yeah. That's the best Tony Storm match I've seen since this character change. Was that match she had with Emi?
Yeah, but back to this. Briscoe and Roosh, that was my jam.
So they're trading chops on the apron. Roosh hit a release suplex from the apron. That got some holy shit chants. Roosh is still limping. Briscoe goes back in the ring. They both go to the top rope. Briscoe knocked him off and hit his froggy bow, but Roosh kicked out. Then he went for the J Driller. Roosh powered out, and he threw Briscoe into the corner. And then Briscoe came back, and then Roosh threw an elbow, knocked him into the corner, hit the bull's horns, and he had tried that 2 other times in the match and didn't hit it. This time he nails it. And he gets the pin. And Briscoe had some great near falls as well. Off of some of his signature stuff. I think people thought that he was going to win with that froggy bow. That Roosh kicked out at the very last second from that one, and that's kind of where the crowd went to another level after that, and then stayed there. And they ended the match at the perfect time. I thought this was just great.
Yeah, no, this is the best. This is my favorite match of the tournament so far.
Oh, there you go. Well, I like the main event of tonight better, but.
Okay.
So now our standings are Moxley, Swerve. Moxley's got 6. Swerve, Roosh, and White have 3, and Briscoe and Lethal have 0. So I saw someone making a joke, like I was putting over this tournament, and somebody said, "Oh, I can't wait for that match between Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal would both have 0 points." And I'm like, yeah, I agree. He was doing it sarcastically, but I'm like, I want to see that match because I want to see. And especially get freaking Danielson on that commentary because he'll be putting over how badly these guys don't want to go through this tournament with 0 points. They don't want to be the one guy.
Well, then they did a whole almost 6-month long angle about their friendship.
True. Yeah.
And the Triple J thing on AEW television. You got a lot of callbacks.
Hopefully they bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dennis brings up the point that Roosh and AEW has been fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And I was down on them hiring him. I'm not going to lie.
I thought he was going to be nothing but trouble.
Yeah, and he's been great. So here's where the show turned around a bit. We went backstage with Tony and her crew, and they're in black and white, and RJ City's there. And he brought up the championship presentation from last week, the Oscar Awards celebration that they had. And he said, "What'd you do afterwards?" And she says, "Oh, I celebrated at the compound, and JFK was there, or one of the Kennedys anyway." So now she's Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
And I guess she's evolving because she was Gloria Swanson. And she brought up a couple old movie actors. I think actually Barbara Stanwyck and
Fatty
Frances
Arbuckle.
Fisher.
Fatty
Fatty
Arbuckle
Arbuckle.
too. Yeah, it's like,
Didn't
was
she
Fatty
mention-
Arbuckle concerned? I was like, well, he did go to
Yeah.
trial for rape and manslaughter, so I'm sure he was concerned at one time.
She's lying there on this couch. I think she had
A new
she had her
tat on her
leg
leg.
on RJ City,
Yeah.
and she looked like she was hungover. And she asked RJ City to take off her shoes, and the camera just kind of really focused on her legs and her shoes, and I don't really know what the point of that was. And then they came back after the.
She's a pinup girl. Yes, they focus on her legs and whatnot.
Okay, all right, that's what that was. All right.
Mhm.
And they came back, and Excalibur and Taz were making jokes, and that's kind of where they turned around too, because they'd been really serious up until now. I think because Danielson was with them, and then they started back into some of their bad habits again after this.
A little bit, but there was one that popped me. But continue.
I might mention it.
Okay.
Then we get to MJF, and he comes out, and he's got his cane. So here's where we'll pause the recap. And so MJF, he's legit got an injury, right? He did that stupid spot at the pay-per-view where the table broke, and he decided he was going to do that dive to the outside anyways onto the ground, and landed, full on his hip. And I guess he separated his shoulder, dislocated his hip, and something else he mentioned.
On a Uranagi, he got a torn labrum of some sort, which is the shoulder. I mean, it's either there's two labrums. There's you got them in the hip joints, and you also have them in the shoulder joints. But I think he's talking about the shoulder one.
Okay, and you have a torn labrum.
I have been diagnosed with possibly a torn labrum. I got my MRA yesterday, so I'll be going into the doctor on Monday. But it was originally back in after my cancer scare. I decided to hit the gym rather hard, and during weightlifting, I hurt my shoulder somehow, and I've been waiting to get it diagnosed for the last year or so to see if it would heal or whatnot. So I have some experience, and I've been educated a bit on torn labrums, and it's going to depend. Number one, they don't do surgeries on these all that much anymore without doing a few months of rehab. So people assuming that he's just going to go in and get surgery, they don't. There's been a push to not do surgery to kind of build up the muscles around there. But let me explain first what the labrum is. It's three muscles that basically keep your shoulder in the socket. You have one in the front, you have one on the top, and you have one in the rear. And it depending on which one is torn and the severity of the tear, depends on also, whether or not they recommend surgery or just rehab. Depends on your pain as well. A lot of torn labrums, from what I was told by my orthopedist, is about pain management. Because they really, for younger people like MJF, they might recommend the surgery, but for the most part, they try not to, especially if there's not a tear in the rotator cuff, so to speak, because they don't want to get frozen shoulder involved. And I don't know if you know what frozen shoulder is.
No.
It basically means you can't move your arm anymore.
Oh, okay.
Like and messing with this stuff. I mean, it's not that the surgery's bad. It's that it's a little bit risky within there. So usually what they do is you have if you don't have a full tear, like if you haven't torn your bicep off, or if you've torn a tricep off, or your pec, which was the problem with Cody Rhodes, is Cody tore his shoulder, but he also tore his pec. Yeah. They don't want to necessarily go in there and do the surgery. Now, what MJF is going through now is what I've been going through, in that if you are a side sleeper of any kind, and my left hand is my dominant hand, so I've had a problem. I can't lift as much. I like doing weightlifting and things like that, and I can't do that anymore without pain. And every time, you get the twinge, it's like the bone is grinding a little bit into into your shoulder, and that's what's causing the pain. But you can't also like roll over and in your sleep, because as soon as you land on it, you get that pain, you get woke up, and you get some very, very bad sleep during the night. So I
Yeah,
assume
I would
he's
imagine. Yeah.
very, very cranky as well. And I am left side dominant. So that's a problem for me right now. Like it's one of those things where it's keeping me from doing a lot, but I suspect it'll be rehab for a while to get the exact exercises in there to do it. It's very frustrating. The the muscle tissues heal as you get like blood flow in there, but they don't heal completely like with any tear. Like even if you tore like an ACL, it won't heal on its own. It's just surgery is considered risky at times. So I don't know if he's going to be out. He can still wrestle with it as long as he can handle the pain and stuff. He won't be able to do a lot of power stuff necessarily, but um, I wouldn't be surprised if at the age, what is he, 25?
27.
27? Okay, he's under 30. So they may, if it's a complete tear and if there's something else torn in there, they'll do the surgery. But if
I
not,
mean,
I could see them recommending him not, and he could still maintain the title during this time.
honestly, I mean, if they do decide, hey, let's just get the title off him and get the surgery, get him off TV for a while, might be the best thing long term. Get him off
Yeah.
TV for a while, come back as a returning star, kind of like Triple H when he tore his quad. Like where he came back and he went to another level. It could be like that with him. But
Will it get? There's a couple questions. Will it get worse if MJF keeps working on it? Just depends on the types of things he does on it. I mean, it depends on what actually caused it and what
well,
what kind of motion it is, because it's mostly a repetitive motion thing. Most torn labrums are, and if it's overhead stuff, then yeah, that could affect him. I mean, if he likes doing those types of things. I mean, for me, it was bench pressing, and then I pulled back and it tore something in my shoulder. Yeah, and it also, I mean, I don't know which of the three muscles it is that's wrapped around
obviously,
and
yeah.
keeps the joint in there.
Well,
So
it
you
also
never
gets
know.
to what you were talking about. We talked briefly before the show was, like if he actually stopped doing stupid stuff and worked safe like he normally does, then he's probably got a better chance of not
Yeah,
doing more damage to it.
like
So
if he worked like MJF pre-title, which
yeah.
is one of the most safe styles I've ever seen anybody
Mhm.
wrestle, and there were a lot of the work rate guys that didn't like it, but it was
But he
safe.
was still good. I mean, he
Yeah,
had good matches. So
yeah. Actually, you know what I think the problem for MJF is going to be is taking moves versus
yeah.
doing moves, because he
Yes.
has to land on his back and his shoulder and then take the energy and flatten it out, and that's how how they take flat back bumps is
Well,
they press their arms down like that, and that can hurt at times depending on where. I mean, that just kind of gives me a twinge of pain doing that.
putting that out. The
Yeah.
other thing is like he might overcompensate and then
Yes.
end up hurting something else.
Like
So
Flair in the back
yes.
chop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not used to that. So yeah, he could end up hurting something else.
I'm not a doctor. I just stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. This has been medical talk on the Dynamite Show.
So we got this promo. And so I thought this promo was mostly okay, not great, okay. But there were two things in this promo that bugged me a lot. So in that sense, because of that, I would say it's one of his weaker promos overall.
Okay.
So he comes out with his cane. His response, at first I thought it was muted, but then when he got to the ring, it was actually pretty big. And he says, December 30th, Nassau Coliseum. It's Samoa Joe versus your truly for this belt to Triple B. When it comes to Samoa Joe, I don't like him. Professionally, I respect him. I respect what he's done for this industry. He didn't come here to line his pockets. So that's a shot at Punk. He came in here because he believes in those three letters, AEW, and the fans chanted AEW. And he says, back in the early 2000s, I got a poster from TNA Wrestling, he brings up. Not Ring of Honor. He says, what's this all about? And he says, I tuned in and I couldn't have been happier. I saw a new cast of pro wrestlers I'd never seen before. And I saw one guy who impressed me most, the Samoan Submission Machine. He looked unconventional, but he didn't care, and neither did we. And every time he walked through that curtain, he was the baddest man on God's green earth. And then he says, and I quote, he wasn't afforded the opportunity to be a world champion in WWE. I'm going to pause my recap here. What the hell is he talking about? And Joe got a lot of shots at the title, if I recall correctly. He didn't win.
Yeah,
Is
but
he
I mean,
telling us they didn't give him the belt? Is that what he's saying?
no, they're telling him that they put him on commentary. If you recall, that's what
Well, they
instead of
did,
giving him a title run. Yeah, I know, I know.
but and he was also the
He was
NXT
he was the
champion. But
NXT World Champion.
yeah, and Adam Cole has brought that up, and he said, "I've been a world champion everywhere I've gone,"
Yeah.
which presumably means WWE. But Joe also was on the main roster, and he had pay-per-view matches for the title, and he lost.
Yes,
So
this was a little bit of mana for the
yeah,
fans, saying basically, "Oh, look, WWE misused him."
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it was, and I don't think it worked. And then he says, so I'll go. So he says, what he did for the sport was bigger than that. And he said he showed that you don't have to be a massive male model bodybuilder to make it in this sport.
They're going heavy on that, aren't they?
Well, okay.
On the other guys.
Again. Look at freaking MJF. Oh, that's all this guy does is work out. I mean, he's one of the biggest guys they have. And then he goes on to say, like, without Joe, a guy like me would have never got a chance. And I'm like, you're like the total package. Like, what is he talking about? I was just like baffled. Like, I know what he's trying to say, but it doesn't ring true. So I don't.
Somewhat true because he is short, but yes.
Yeah, but he can talk. I mean, he's
Yes,
Roddy
he can
Piper.
talk. Yeah.
He's Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Matt says he liked the continent delivery, but he didn't understand the point. MJF putting over Joe as an underappreciated great talent doesn't get me excited for MJF versus Joe tagging together as WWE type booking.
No,
Yes.
but it does address a problem. See,
and we'll get to the tagging.
It's weird because you're correct in one way, but incorrect in another. Because the part of the problem with some of these promos over the years has been nobody gives credit to their opponent. Type of a thing. This has been especially a big problem when Britt was running the division in the women's division.
Yeah. So he's putting him
Flair
over.
And Flair used to do this all the time where it's just like, Hawk, look at you, you're a specimen, in the gym, doing a great tag team wrestler. But when you get in the ring with me, brother, it always gets turned around a bit. And this is also MJF being a babyface. Yeah,
which again, I've gone from like trying to decipher whether or not he was trying to be fake and he's setting us up to turn on us again. And I'm totally convinced now he's actually trying to be a babyface. So
I think so too, and I think it's a mistake. Yeah. I know that Alvarez was calling for it, and all these. Look, what a fiery baby! No, this man deserves to always be a heel, always.
So he says, because of the road Joe paved, it allowed a man like me to stand in the ring with him. And he said, Joe, very quickly, I'd like to say, as painful as it is to admit, thank you. And then the fans start chanting, thank you, Joe. And he says, however, he says, I'm actually not too shabby myself, am I? I managed to pave a road of my own. I helped build a new alternative. I've helped build this place brick by brick. Fans chanted MJF. And I did that by defeating some of the biggest names in this industry. Of course, the first two names he mentioned are Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And then he says Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. And the one name I was lucky to beat and to survive was Samoa Joe. And he says, December 30th is not about your legacy. It's about mine. December 30th at Nassau Coliseum, can Max Friedman outlast the final boss of this sport one more time? And he says, and this is key, I'm going to make a promise to everyone watching at home and to everyone in this arena. And I'm thinking, okay, don't promise you're going to retain the title because babyfaces don't make promises they're not going to keep. And I mean, and who knows what's going to happen. But he says, Joe, on December 30th, I don't care if my left knee keeps sliding in and out or my right hip keeps popping. I don't care if you're Godzilla and King Kong incarnate. On December 30th, I'm going to show the world it's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. And if you want what's around my waist, you're going to have to put me down. And then he broke the cane over his knee, and now he doesn't need the cane anymore. So he did not promise to retain his title. He did not guarantee he was going to retain his title. So what'd you think of his part? And we'll get to Joe.
I liked the go home part of it. I thought that was solid.
Yeah, the go home was great. I thought. The old MJF promo on Pike just went viral as a big reminder of how much better he was as a heel. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I used to rave about every single one of his promo.
I thought he'd go over the edge sometimes in terms of trying to be too funny at times.
Yeah.
But overall, I liked it. I like his. Look, some people are just fun to hate. And
yes,
those are the types of people I glom onto in wrestling.
Roddy Piper.
I'm a Blanchard fan, and nobody
Yeah,
ever liked
Tully.
Tully. Even other
Yeah.
heels hated Tully. So yeah.
Truth. So the lights went out, and we got these strobe lights blinking, and all of a sudden
Oh,
we see all these guys in black come into the ring, and one of them is a lot bigger than the rest of them, and they're attacked. I thought pretty clearly that one was Wardlow. And then Joe makes a save, dragged the big guy out, and everyone else leaves. I guess MJF was fighting him off as well. And then all of a sudden, like everything just died. And I was like to the point where I was thinking my feed was out. Like I was going to fast forward. Like it was just black, no sound, no nothing. And then all of a sudden we get these words on the screen. In the shadows, our games begin. Next week, Samoa Joe and MJF, will you face the unknown in a tag team match? Are you a hero, Max? Does that not sound like an Adam Cole line? That are you a hero, Max? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. The fan, and then they come back on. They're back in the ring, and the fans are chanting, "He's our scumbag." And MJF's got a mic, and he says, "I'm so sick of your Scooby Doo bullshit. I'm not dealing with this crap when I got that guy breathing down my neck." He says, "I'm going to take out your men one by one, and I'm going to unmask you, you coward. You want a tag match? You're on." And the camera's going back to Joe in the back behind him, and he's not happy about it. And then all of a sudden MJF's music starts playing, and then we get like a scratch sound, and then it started again. And Shivani mentioned that the Devil has been tapping into their lighting and sound systems, but Tony signed the match for next week.
Yes, the Devil is someone with access to the production truck.
Better not be Tony Khan.
Better not be Tony Khan.
No, I think it's Adam Cole at this point. I mean, maybe Britt, but
did Joe lay a hand on the guy that he pulled out of the ring, or did he just pull out of the ring and take the bat?
Just pulled him out. He didn't beat on him.
It's interesting.
And he did get his weapon. Yeah.
It also kind of gives you pause that, well, maybe MJF's in on it, and maybe it's all to get Joe, but or Joe's in on it, and it's all to get MJF. They're giving you enough red herrings. I think it's still fun.
So next week, apparently, I assume it's going to be two of these guys.
But I hated the way they did this production thing with the words on the screen. Just start to show the words. Yeah, well, start to show the words on the screen and then do a close up of them, as opposed to making you think there's another production snafu, which I think there was. I think this didn't go off as planned necessarily, and it's like, all right, hurry up, get the words up there, quick.
Yeah, because it was like your feed died. Like it was literally like there was a black screen for I don't know how long, 15 seconds.
Yeah,
like with no sound, no nothing. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and they've notorious for they had another one on Collision on Friday. I think it was Collision. It might have been Rampage. Yeah. So I heard a lot of people compare this to Retribution. I can't argue with that. Yeah.
So it's gonna be the Kingdom probably versus these two, right?
I would think so. Yeah. Yeah. Kingdom in masks.
Yes.
And I don't think they're gonna get maybe they'll get unmasked.
No, I don't think so.
Nobody said I'm going to unmask them one by one, so it's possible.
Okay, maybe it is.
Yeah. And then we get to hear.
Although Wardlow would be the first one to unmask, because that'd be number one. He's the most interesting. Yeah. Number two, he's not associated with any other act in the company.
And you can actually give him. They got Winter's Coming on December 13th, so you could do an MJF Wardlow match on that show
before December 30th. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next we got speaking of Wardlow, he was in the very next match.
Did a quick take off of the costume and back out.
Yeah, and he was sweating when he got out there. So I don't know. I'm just making that up. He might have been. I don't know. He looked good though. He had a singlet and his hair is growing out. And but AR Fox attacked him before the bell. So we actually got to see Wardlow, like selling a bit and fighting. They brawled outside for a little while, and then they go back to the ring. And Taz was back, talking about press slam Jones. And I just hate when he does that. And Fox actually got some offense. He hit a 450 splash and went for the pin, but Wardlow kicked out at 2. Fox kicked him in the head a couple times, and then Wardlow was actually selling them. And then he came back. He hit a choke slam and a clothesline, deadlift powerbomb. Then he hit another powerbomb. Then he hit the swanton. Then he hit another powerbomb, and the rest stopped it. So this is like, a little bit longer than some of the Wardlow matches lately, but like 2 minutes maybe, as opposed to 30 seconds. And AR Fox loses again. So I assume he's going to be getting a title shot next week.
This is where AR Fox lives because he didn't have his passport. So
Yes. Yeah, you're right. But it's fine squash match.
Martin Brothers, look at your future.
Yeah, no kidding. Good Lord. Speaking of the Martin brothers, they
Yes.
showed highlights of Dante's injury. Oh my God, I can't believe they put that on TV.
At least they warned us. At least they said, "Hey, don't
Yes,
watch this if you're
turn away.
squeamish."
Yeah, this is gruesome, and it was. I don't think I'd actually seen that angle of it. I watched
Oh,
it
I
live.
hadn't either, I don't think, and I was just like,
Mhm.
"Ah!"
Uh-huh. His leg just bent the wrong way. It was gross. The thing is, I could see it coming on when I was watching the pay-per-view live. So I think I actually looked away because I knew what was going to happen. Like I hadn't heard or anything. You could tell like it was really dangerous, and this is not going to end well. But yeah, it was gross. But and he's back. Like it's not even that long, 8 months. I figured he'd be out for a year at least. But he's back, and it was the Hardys and Brother Zay against Top Flight and Action Andretti. And Andretti started the match, and he worked like most of the match actually. But they were building to a hot tag for Dante, and the fans, they're really into Dante because they're from Minneapolis, and so they're chanting, "We want Dante," and they kept teasing this tag. And then finally, at one point, Andrade tags Darius in, and then they didn't boo, which was nice, but then they, did some more. Finally, they built to this Dante tag. He comes in, and the fans go nuts. And he hit a springboard splash, and then he just tagged right out again. And I'm like, is he hurt still? And they just brought
He
him
may
into
not
this
be
ring.
100%, but he's going to wrestle
Yeah.
at 75% to make sure that, hey, let's start the build now.
Well, in his hometown, right?
Yes.
But yeah, so then then they eventually, though, he did tag in, and he worked, he was the babyface in peril for a while. And then they went to the outside, and the Hardys were like working his heels, like complete heels. They're they're breaking up tags, they're pulling people off ropes so they can't do tags, they're attacking outside the ring. And then the baby faces came back. They did a springboard, or sorry, Dante made the comeback by kicking out a leg, and he went for the tag. They went to the outside. Andretti hit a moonsault off the barricade onto Matt. And Dante and Zay were in the ring. Darius and Action were in there as well. Dante hit a side effect on, I think, Brother Zay, and got the win. So it was it was a sprint. It was fine. It wasn't great, but it was good first match back for Top Flight and Action Andretti. So
it was fine. I was confused as to why they didn't get 3 random luchadors, but then they rectified that, so I was happy
yes,
about
they
it.
did. In fact, immediately after, Renee was with the winners, and she asked Dante how his leg is, and before he could answer, Penta walks in, and he just says, he counts them 1, 2, 3, and then he says 1, and then Phoenix and comes in, and he says 2, and then El Hijo del Vikingo comes in.
I don't think that was Phoenix. I thought that was Commander.
Oh, was it? Okay, so it's Penta, Commander, and Phoenix. So
No, it's
Commander's
it's
or
Penta,
Commander and
Commander,
Vikingo.
and Vikingo. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Although
bad.
I like it that was Penta, because now you get closure on the story.
Yeah, right, because he was in that match where he got injured.
He's the one who injured him. Well,
kinda. I mean, he kind of injured himself.
Yes.
But so that was my bad. I wrote down Phoenix, but it was Vikingo.
I think I'm
Or
right
it
on
was
that.
Commander. What?
Yeah. I think
I'm
I'm
sure
right
you're
on
right, because
that.
I think Phoenix is injured. So they didn't say when this match is going to be. I assume it's next week or maybe on Collision, but that should be a fun match. And maybe one of these teams is going to go for the 6-man belts. Where are our trios champions? Like they got thrown through that glass window. Feels like a year ago.
I had to think for a second as to who the trios champs were, because I was thinking it was the
His Daddy Ass and the Acclaimed.
That was the Dark Triangle still. No, yeah,
No.
it's the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know, like that maybe they're under the
They're
mask.
selling the injuries.
Yeah, I guess. Glass, I mean, we still haven't seen no, because look, Hook went into Glass on All In, and we've seen him a lot since then.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
I mean,
Caster's
Jungle
a
Boy
bit
went
of a
through Real
wimp.
Glass and is still gone.
There you go. Well, is he? We haven't seen him.
That's true.
Cry me a river. All right, TBS title match. This is a match you were looking forward to. Julia Hart and Emi Sakura. This was announced like 5 minutes before Collision started, I think. And Julia was a crowd favorite. I think she's from Minneapolis, so that's probably part of the reason why. Yeah, but she's been over everywhere anyways.
Although I think she talks with a Southern accent. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Emi was no selling her kicks, and then she just started chopping the hell out of her.
Yes.
And then Julia blocked one of the chops, and then she did just a terrible spin kick. They go to the outside, and Emmy hits her crossbody into Julia on the steps, and she did her tea time thing. They went through a commercial. Crowd was dead when they came back, so I imagine it wasn't that great. But Julia was fighting back, and she just had like nothing on any of her shots. And Emmy looked like she was going for a J driller, but she turned that into a backbreaker, and then she did the motion for the belt. And it was here they announced. I didn't catch it earlier. They may have mentioned it because I fast forward the entrances, but it's house rules. And Emmy's choice for house rule was no submissions. So Julia keeps trying to put on submissions, and because I guess she forgot what the house rules were. And
Emmy figuring out how to do this. You take away her
Yes.
finishing move. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Which I mean, and I think like it sounds like it was just, I'm saying Julia forgot what the steps were. No, I mean the
No.
character forgot.
Yes.
It was actually pretty smart. I hate house rules, but if you're gonna do them, this is how you do it. So she had to let it go, and then Emmy did the La Tapatita. Fans are chanting for Julia. Emmy missed a moonsault. Julia went for her heartless submission, and again, she can't do the submission. Emmy starts tapping, and Julia let it go, and then she got mad at Aubrey, and Aubrey's like, "These are the rules. Like, don't get mad at me." And then Julia hit a clothesline from behind and stomped her and went to the top for the moonsault. Emmy kind of rolled out of the way of the moonsault, but then
I don't think she was rolling out of the way. I think she was rolling to catch her because she was too close to the turnbuckle, and she was going to miss it. I think she did that on purpose. That's what it looked like to me.
Okay, well, she's a pro, so
because
that would make
both
sense.
of them put their opponent far too close to the corner to hit a moonsault on this.
Well,
unless they're
when Emmy went for hers,
up.
she missed Julia
Yeah,
by
and I think that was on
10 feet.
purpose.
Well, yeah. But this one, this was Julia, or this was Emmy getting in the right.
I think this was Emmy trying to save Julia because instead of just moving forward when she was down, she did it during the actual move.
Yeah.
But let me talk about this for a little bit, because number one, Emmy's gimmick of, I'm going to take all your little pretty girls, I'm going to chop the crap out of them, and then I'm going to go full speed at them against the steps. It's my favorite gimmick in AEW. But there was a moment in this match where I started howling, and I'm not sure if it was shoot or work part of it, but Emmy is down on her butt, on her legs, and Julia comes in with a kick to the back, and they cut away from it. But for a moment, you just see Emmy just look at Julia like, what was that crap? And I died. It was like, almost like, you gonna put something into those kicks? Are we gonna make this look real, or are you just gonna do that? I howled at that. Yeah, okay. Twan agrees with me. She rolled in the move to save it. But yes, this was the Jeff Hawkins special. Put Emmy Sakura on and let her kill people, and then she takes the loss eventually.
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was good title match for Julia.
She might be going into the Hall of Boom.
Oh yeah. We got RJ City backstage, and I was wondering, well, who's he going to be with? Because there's only like 3 people that he deals with: Tony, Mariah, who we already saw tonight, and Danhausen. But it was actually Mariah again. And she says, "I'm the new girl. I came from Stardom, and I had quite the run, and I'm dying to show AEW what you can do." She says, "Thank you for connecting me with Tony." And like, they do it in a way that you think he's talking about Tony Storm, or she's talking about Tony Storm, but then it turns out she's talking about Tony Khan, because when this thing was over, they go and she walks into Tony's office. But she says, "You're quite the curator of people, and Tony loves you, and this means the world to me." And she's like totally flirting with him.
Yes.
But he's not getting it at all. Like, he's got no game.
Which also possibly reflects him in real life, but yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Maybe there's an inside joke there and she even gave a look like, "Do you not get this?" Like, and he's just completely oblivious. And then she walked into Tony Khan's office, so I guess she's gonna get a match soon.
I'm upset that we did not get the Tony Khan from the Adam Cole MJF.
Oh yeah,
where he starts yelling,
"Get out of my office!"
But Tony Schiavone coming out of this with the line that just almost killed the show.
Yes.
And I loved it because it was in character and it was in reality, as opposed to breaking the fourth wall. He goes, "I hope he wasn't I hope she didn't interrupt a meeting."
Yes, like,
and
in the middle of Dynamite.
And Excalibur can't handle that. And he just dies dies on mic, and I loved it.
Yeah.
That was a moment of good comedy, and even Taz just couldn't
That
save
was the
that.
line. That was the line you were talking
Yeah,
about earlier.
yeah.
Yeah. So next we got Christian Cage out, and this was like the only thing on the show that was advertised besides the 3 Dynamite matches or the Continental Classic matches. So I hadn't noticed this before because I always fast forward the entrances, but on his countdown clock, have you noticed the words?
Yeah, no, this was, for Full Gear, and
Oh,
they
okay.
did the extended countdown with 10, 9,
Yeah.
8, and Nigel.
Yeah.
Nigel was taking all those words and working them into his commentary during that match in Full
Oh, so
Gear.
I didn't get that. So yeah,
Yeah, it
the
was
only ones I caught were loved, courageous, and generous. I'm not
yes.
sure what other ones there are. Probably fatherly. You know?
Loving, I think, is one of them on, like,
Yeah.
one
Okay.
yes.
So that's great. And he's got 5 security guards with him, and he says, "What I'd like to do right now," and I think that was a bit of a shout out to Rick Rude, from Minneapolis. But he says is to go ahead and invite the rated R superstar Adam Copeland into the ring right now. And he pauses. I don't know what was going on here, but he says, "Adam, I know you're back here. I just want to speak to you about some of the things you said last week. So if you don't mind making your presence felt, it would be greatly appreciated." And then he waits again and nothing happens. And he
And the
says, "Adam."
and the crowd at this point, like, "Adam!"
Yeah. And then Christian realized it and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not saying that again."
Yeah.
He said, "I'd like to speak to you in this ring if you don't mind. Truck, can you hit his music? Tell him I want to speak with him. Maybe I should just go back there and speak to him." And he pretended like he was going to leave the ring. And then finally, Adam's music started. So I don't know what was going on there, but Copeland marched down to the ring and he got in the face of the security, and Christian's behind them. And he says, "Listen, management wanted me to have security. It's not my idea. We don't need security here tonight. I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, vacate the ring." And they left the ring. And I note at this point, at the beginning of the show, did you catch last week those awful Woo Energy logos on the Controns?
Yes.
Um,
And the cans were now in front of the,
yeah, but they were gone for the first part of this show, and they were back for this. So I was like, "Oh my god, I can't. This thing's so obnoxious. It
has
makes me
anybody
want to."
tried those in the chat? Like because mushroom-based energy drinks just sound terrible to me.
Oh, I heard them talking about it, and there's no way I would do it. But even if I wanted to, I wouldn't now because of the obnoxious thing. Someone's got to answer. Let me know if they do.
Yes.
But so they he says, "Last week you challenged me to a match for the TNT Championship, December 6th in Montreal on Dynamite." He says, "But we're not going to make it to Montreal, and here's why. Because I'm sorry." And the fans are like, "Oh." He says, "Now look, I know what you're thinking. I'm only sorry because now I'm on an island by myself." Fans are chanting bullshit. And he says, "Last week you took out the kill switch, you took out the prodigy Nick Wayne, and I was pretty pissed off." And then like the fans are kind of rattling a bit. He says, "You took out Luchasaurus." And then he's like, "Shit." And the fans are start chanting, "You fucked up." And then he says, "When you hit kill switch with 2 concertos, I jumped in my car and just started driving. I rolled the windows down, and somewhere during that trip, it turned into a road trip of reflection, of soul searching, digging down deep, trying to figure out how I became the person I am, the person who says and does all these unsavory things. And it reminded me when we used to borrow my mom's Taurus. So we didn't care where we went. We were broke. We were having the time of our lives, but we knew we were going to make it, and we didn't know how, but damn it, did we ever make it. We went
Toby
on
the
to be,
Taurus, yes.
yeah, Tony the Taurus, yeah.
Toby, yeah.
We went on to become multiple tag team championships, and dare I say, the greatest tag team that ever lived. We both became multiple time world champions, 2 of the greatest careers in the history of this sport. And he says, but take away the wrestling part and it runs deeper. Everyone knows you grew up with a single mom, Adam. And the fans are like, ooh. And he says, you didn't have a father figure. The crowd boos. And he says, I'm the patriarch of AEW, but in no way am I suggesting I'm your father, Adam. I'm your brother. And he says, my father became your father. We brought you in like one of our own. You ate at our dinner table. You slept over. My dad treated you like one of his children. I think he said like he fed you and he beat you. I maybe heard that wrong, but he says he's to this day, he's one of your biggest fans. And he says, I love you, man. We're family. And listen to me. When your mom passed away a few years ago, that was the hardest time of your life. Sometime before she passed, she said, I want to see you guys again as a tag team one more time. What I wouldn't give to see it. And on that trip, I started thinking about it. Let's do this for her. As a tag team, we should do it for Judy, for the Judemeister, for your mom. Let's do it for her. And the crowd starts chanting Judy. and Edge is like, so he's torn, and he's like, he doesn't know what to do. And then Christian put down the mic, and it looks like he's going to hug him. And then Adam kind of turns his back a little bit. And Christian right away shines up the belt, and he goes to hit Adam with the belt. And Adam just levels him in the nards. And he says, nice try, dumbass. And he's sitting on the ground. He's writhing in pain. He says, sit up when I'm talking to you. And he says, you better shine up that belt real nice. Sleep with it if you want to, because next week she's coming home with me. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot. Go fuck yourself. And didn't get bleeped, but
they were late. They were late on the bleep, at least. Yeah,
because the next 10 seconds they bleep nothing. The fans were probably chanting "Holy shit" or something, but they didn't bleep that. I'd have to go back and listen to the fight feed, but I was like, it was this. I really like this promo a lot. I bought it. I loved it. I honestly thought they were going to tag. Like,
oh, did you? I didn't believe for a moment. I just knew that Edge was gonna see whatever BS was coming, and he was gonna be a smart babyface, which I love. I also love Christian just for the sheer point of, well, I want them to not say bullshit anymore. So I'm going to purposely F up with the Luchasaurus thing, which I think was on purpose.
Oh, okay.
So it would shift them into a different chant.
Gotcha.
Except the chant was "you effed up," which also probably needed to be bleeped. That was purposeful.
Clear.
That was him purposefully working the crowd like that. That to me,
and the bullshit chants were like super loud and super clear.
Yes, yeah. So he needed to get rid. So he messes up on the Luchasaurus. He was playing them like a fiddle. It was. Yeah, I loved this. I loved everything about this promo.
What did you think of last week's thing where Edge snapped and gave Nick Wayne the concerto right in front of Shayna?
I didn't buy it. I really didn't. I thought he'd have to look over and see her saying no.
I think he didn't care. Like, he was just blinded with rage.
Too. I mean, that too. I didn't mind it that much. I thought it was an okay segment. I thought he's
gonna turn on him next week.
Shayna or him?
Shayna's gonna turn on Copeland.
Yes. And I think that's just dopey. But yes.
Oh, well, I mean, I and I think they're gonna be like a power couple, Christian and Shayna, and
and he's gonna make out with her.
Yeah.
Just to do it.
Awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome, but it's gonna make absolutely no sense.
It's basically their version of Edge and Vicky, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So that was that, and and the crowd was super hot for this, and then they went to the main event, which was Jay White and Swerve Strickland, and you would think that they might have a hard time coming back from that, but this crowd was hot for this match. They freaking love Swerve Strickland. Danielson was back for this, so he left after the Briscoe Rush match, and he was back here, and he put over the Hangman match at the pay-per-view. Said it was the most brutal match he's ever seen. I noted that there was no guns this time. So last week the guns were out there for the entrance, and then the ref had to send them to the back and threaten to DQ Jay. And this time, no guns. And the Excalibur pointed out that we'll stick through this match until it ends. I've now set my PVR, so I'm never going to have that issue again that I've had. Danielson pointed out that White is the most likely person in this tournament to go to a draw because of how deliberate a slow pace he wrestles at. I thought that was a great attention to detail.
That was nice.
Yeah. Excalibur pointed out that Jay White's got a ton of experience in the G1, and he's the most experienced at this type of round robin tournament. And then they get to this match, and it was back and forth. And, there's some more, like, I think another match where they were selling a knee. Jay White kept going for the knee. At one point, he took it out with a chop block. Swerve hit him with a discus lariat at one point, and they're both down, and Danielson's just going nuts over this match. Fans are chanting, "This is awesome." They get back up. They traded forearms. White went down. The crowd loved it. Swerve was playing to the crowd at this point. Now he's just embracing the babyface thing. And Jay chopped the knee out here. Uranagi by White for 2. Excalibur pointed out there was about 9 minutes left. And I figured, that's the closest we're going to get to a time count. They really need to do more. Like, they should probably do them every 5 minutes. Jay went for a Fujiwara armbar. Swerve fought it off. He got wrist control, and then he did the arm snap spot. And Excalibur called it the kill shot, which is his old name in Lucha Underground. And the fans started chanting, "You sick fuck." I mean, I love to hear that on a spot like that, as opposed to the drinking blood Like this is how you work the crowd. But Jay's from this point on, he was like working with one arm. So they replayed the thing from last week where the ref had his back turned and then Jay went for a low blow, but Swerve countered it with a backbreaker. And then even I think it was Danielson pointed out, hey, these guys are studying each other's matches and they know what's coming. And that's what's going to happen in this tournament. Just freaking love that. And Swerve went for a kick to the head, and then he went for the Swerve spot, and the Swerve stomp, and he hit it, but Jay kicked out, and that was a great near fall. And I thought at this point that it was going to go to a draw, and then Jay rolled up Swerve for 2, knife edge roll up by Swerve for 2. Jay went for the switchblade, Swerve countered it, and then we get a time count from Justin Roberts. 5 minutes remain, and I thought, okay, it's the only time we've ever had a 5 count. We're going to a draw. And then they did a chop battle, and Jay hit a sleeper suplex, and he went for the Blade Runner, but Swerve countered it, and he hit the seatbelt clip or whatever, and he rolled him up for 3, and he got the pin. And I think the fans were shocked at the clean pin, but also pleasantly happy. And clean as clean can be, win. And and he joins Moxley at the top of the league with 6 points. Rush and Jay White each have 3, and Jay Lethal, and Mark Briscoe have 0 points. And I love this match. Absolutely loved it. I'm becoming a big Jay White fan, honestly.
Really?
I know, right? Yeah. And Swerve is awesome.
I liked it. Jay White doesn't do a whole lot for me. But he was good in this. Christian was not Christian, but Adam Copeland was a smart babyface. Swerve is a smart heel. Yes. So he knows that low blow is coming from Jay White.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Jay White always going for the shortcut in these matches? Are you fine?
I think it's great. Like,
oh, do you?
Yeah, because I think you want to have one guy that's not playing by the rules. He's the evil, except they're not doing the whole House of Torture shit. Yeah.
Speaking of which.
Do you see the Gates of Agony
are now in there, man?
I watched that this morning.
Let this happen.
I actually saw it before I knew about it, which never happens in New Japan.
Does this mean we're getting evil along with Nana?
Well, they're wrestling each other tomorro, Friday, I think. So
gotcha.
So I think that's just
maybe it'll just be a 2-day thing.
No, it'd probably be like somebody trying to lay down for the other one. I would get.
Yeah. No, this is good. If you're gonna build up Swerve, this is appropriate. It's weird because Jay White's been taking so many losses.
Well, you know what? I think Jay White's a high mid-carder, and I don't think he is the world champion material. Maybe someday he will be, but not today. And Swerve might be, I think Swerve's winning this title in 2024. I'd put money on that. So
you think he's taking it from Joe or MJF?
I mean, could be either one. Could be Adam Cole.
I would say you take it from Joe, but that's me.
Yeah, could be. I mean,
if you're going to give it to him, in 2024, you take it from Joe versus MJF.
I wouldn't take the belt from MJF in Long Island. That's risky, but I mean, I suppose they could do it. They're set up to do it. Yeah, it would. But then you can also have MJF, cut a promo and say, like he's, vowing revenge, and he says he's not even going to consider signing with WWE because I want, Joe or Cole or whoever. Like if Cole is the devil and costs him the title, I'm signing with AEW because that's the only way I'm going to get my hands on Adam Cole. And even though he's already signed, but he can cut that promo. So, what is Matt says he's Jay White and he still thinks he's tailor-made for modern WWE. Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, and you still can't believe they passed him. I mean, that was literally a fluke of timing. I mean, if it was 2 months later, Triple H would have snapped him up, and if it was 2 months earlier, Vince wouldn't have been there. So it was just that brief period of time when Vince was actually there and making calls, and that's why they didn't get him, I think. But I think it's worked out for him, probably. I don't know. I don't think he would be top of the card in WWE, but
he'd be in NXT still. He'd be with Finn Balor or something, maybe.
Lucky. But he is. I'd agree that his style is tailor-made for WWE.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
But I also think he's a breath of fresh air in AEW because nobody works the same style as he does, and that's what I really like. So, but yeah, it's and so we got Collision. We're gonna have Danielson and Kingston as well. The other 2 matches I mentioned. And next week's Dynamite, Copeland and Christian. I think that's all we have announced for either show. Nothing for Rampage as usual. Rampage is such a forgotten show. I gotta say, did you watch Collision?
Parts of it. I loved the. I watched one thing. I gotta be honest with you. I watched the Big Bill and and Ricky Starks promo.
Oh, so you didn't watch the tournament matches?
No, not yet. It's still
Okay.
on the DVR.
Well, I will tell you that if you do just watch the tournament matches, there is a stretch of 5 matches in a row on that show that is worse than most dark elevation lineups that we've had. Like, I could not believe they put these matches on national television, and it did the lowest viewership that they've ever done. So, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I'm just, I want to find out, because I tweeted it out. I want to find the lineup here. So I don't tweet that often, so it should be real close here. I'm tweeting about. Oh crap! No, I'm already into last week. Here we go. Killswitch versus the Boys. Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews against Commander and Gravity. Julia Hart versus Lady Frost. FTR versus the Righteous, and Keith Lee versus Lee Moriarty. Those were 5 consecutive matches on national television.
Hard pass.
Yeah. I could not believe what I was watching. It felt like it was 5 hours long, that show.
And I heard the reviews. It was like every match had a botch in it or something. So I was like, okay, I really don't want to watch it.
Brutal. But the opener and especially the main event were both great. And that Big Bill promo was mostly great. So, and Ricky too. He got a complete babyface promo. I heard that promo on Impact last year, and it was really good then too. It was the same promo. So I thought it was a good show for the most part. You know, I didn't really like
enjoyed this Dynamite quite a bit.
I didn't like most of the MJF promo, and I didn't like the Tony Storm segment, but other than that, everything else was pretty good, I thought. And so this tournament so far, so good, I think.
Kind of. I'd like a little more heat in this tournament, to be honest with you.
Well, that'll come as
I'd actually like some more of those pre-match promos. You know, I'm gonna kick your ass.
We need more pre and post match promos. Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah,
we need something from Jay White, especially now at this point. We want to hear him and maybe ask him. You know, can you win without the Bullet Club? You know, and then have him cut a promo about that. You know, I want to hear Jay Lethal talk about how he's not going to this tournament. I guarantee you, I'm not going to have 0 points. You know, like I want some desperation. Mark Briscoe, he's got 0 points. I want to hear from him. So hopefully we do that. Need like a control center. Maybe that can be on YouTube, like before Dynamite. I might actually watch it. We both liked it, so that's good. We're both happy. It's always good when we're both happy, isn't it?
I guess I'm happy.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I guess, that was good. Just about wrap it up. I don't think we got anything else. No pay-per-views to preview or anything like that.
No. Remind me, what was on this week's Rampage? Did they plug anything?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay, then I didn't miss anything.
Nope. This is interesting. Sammy, Jungle Boy, and Britt were all like tweets saying that MJF is hurting AEW. Britt's complaining, and Abu of Wrestling Purists, who is definitely connected, says it's not a work. He also has pointed out that he thinks Sasha's heading to WWE. But
I could have told you that even when she was showed up on All Out or All In.
I think you did tell me that.
Yes.
Off air.
Vince is gone. She's going back to WWE.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I've also heard
everybody's like, well, what about Naomi? It's like, well, Naomi's under contract for Impact once that contract's over, she'll go to WWE as well.
I've heard that it's not 100% final yet, but I mean that it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. There's a ready-made WrestleMania big time match, for her if she wants it. Yeah.
Well, I think there's also a tag match for her if she wants it too.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right now,
I think her and Bayley against Becky and Charlotte.
Okay. I was thinking Asuka and Kyrie, but
I was just thinking Becky and Charlotte, the 4 horsewomen, and for the tag team titles.
Yeah.
I think she wanted those tag team titles to mean something.
Yes. So, and that's the only reason she left. She wasn't unhappy with the company. No. He was unhappy with how Vince treated the tag team titles.
So she comes right in. Maybe she beats, Chelsea Green, and Piper Niven on her first night, and then and then she goes to WrestleMania with the belts. I can
Yeah,
see that.
possibly something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I take these things with a grain of salt because it seems to me that three of the quote unquote pillars for CM Punk saying that and saying that it's not a work. Abu's been wrong before. Let's put it that way. If that's how you
And
say his
I
name.
mean, put it this way: everything Brit's tweeted out, every time I see it, I think work.
Yes.
There was something last week. Where she talked about at Full Gear when she talked about Adam Cole having to be, they just let Adam Cole wander to the ring. Meanwhile, they had 18 security guards holding back MJF. Everything she's talking about is MJF. Like, it's either they're trying to throw us off the scent by
Britt wants to be
Kaiser.
No, don't stop it. Don't give in to the comments. Britt wants to be the face of AEW.
Yeah,
So
but it could also be that she's throwing off people. That
I
it's
think
not
that
really
too.
her.
Yes, I think all of them are throwing. I think they've been told to work the internet a bit.
Yeah, that there was that one promo of I think Jungle Boy might have actually done the audio for the Devil on that one, and
the laugh. Yeah, that sounded like him.
Yeah,
if I see him at the gym, I'll yell at him. Hey, are you the Devil? No, I won't do that. I don't.
And he's
bug
like,
wrestlers. I don't bug wrestlers at the gym.
And he's gonna look at you and says, "Please allow me to introduce myself."
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, get your plugs in.
At Crap Game 13 for arcane references, bad jokes, Steve Winwood posts, the whole deal.
Oh yeah. Back in the high life.
Well, no, that dominated my Apple Music. The yearlies came out. Of course, I spent most of my time listening to Steve Winwood. I do a show called Shake Them Ropes on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. One of the episodes that was the most shared on Spotify was a Shake Them Ropes episode this year, my solo one during Labor Day when I ranted a bit. That'll drop either Thursday or Friday, maybe Saturday, depending on when Chris Novembrino, my co-host, can go there. This week we'll talk. I think we're going to talk a lot about that Raw this week because it was very interesting and very bad at the same time. And we'll see what he thought about Dynamite as well. That'll come out later this week.
Speaking of the those year-end lists, a couple years ago I had the song "You Belong to Me" by Joe Stafford.
Yeah, I was thinking Jewel, but yes.
So that was my number one most listened to song of 2021, I think, and I listened to it 179 times.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I have weird listening. So this year it's looking like it's probably going to be Hitching a Ride by Vanity Fair. I was at about 85 by the end of August, so probably listened to another 30, 40 since then.
I believe mine was the remixed version of Valerie from the Chronicles album by Winwood. It was either that or Tina Turner's 24/7 after her death. I played that one a lot.
And that's not the same Valerie that Amy Winehouse did.
Right? No, totally different Valerie. That's one.
You've heard the dance remix of it?
Yeah, Eric Prid's "Call on Me." Yeah, that's the one that it takes.
Call on me.
Yes, that one. Yeah.
The video. Ooh. You can't watch that.
Settle down.
Yeah, you can't watch that one in mixed company, but Google it, folks, and then Google the unedited version of Blurred Lines. So for me, I'm I got the In the Clinch MMA podcast with Ryan Frederick. Every week on this here network. If you're downloading them consecutively, it's probably the show right before this one. And we talked about the show coming up this weekend from the Apex, and we talked about a lot of stuff. I can't remember. It was just yesterday. It was actually a pretty slow week in MMA, so it was a quick show. It was only an hour this week, but we'll be back next week to recap that show and preview the next one as we always do. So we got the year end coming up as well, so we'll have some fun stuff for year end. So for Jeff, I've been Paul, and this has been the Dynamite Show. Later.